Is life harder for men or is it harder for women? Let me know what you think in the comments. I got a banger from the Diary of a CEO. Let's get straight into it.
We now have this digital world that we can live our lives in as a distraction from the real world. And there's now more confusion than ever over what it is to be a man and the role of a man in a, and then we look at the stats around suicidality. And I think in Europe, the biggest killer of men under the age of 45 is themselves currently. Mm-hmm. Is the shifting idea of what it is to be a man having an impact on people's sense of self and their purpose?
100%. So there's a crisis that's going on in men, and people think that this is new, but I don't think it's new. It's always been there. So if you look at even 50, 60 years ago, 80% of suicides are still going to be men. So historically, men have been killing themselves for 100 years, and no one's been paying attention. We're just noticing now because the problem seems to be getting worse. So there's a couple of things that are really interesting to understand. So one is that if we look at what technology is doing to our brains, the first thing that it's doing is it is externalizing our attention. So if you look back, let's say 1,000 years ago, as human beings, we spent a lot more time with ourselves. So let's say that you and I go out hunting. And then let's say you shoot an arrow at a deer and you miss. And then I shoot an arrow at a deer and I hit. So in this moment, I'm superior to you. And then we pick up the deer and we're carrying it back. And then we have about 2 or 3 hours to take that emotional insult and we kind of process it. We just give our mind space to process it, which it does.
Dude, this is so true. When we were kids, man, we used to just play. And if you got beat at the game, it is what it is. You got your booty hurt. And then by the time dinner came around, you got a full belly, you went to bed. It was just nothing, right? People nowadays post so much and consume so much social media. I feel like they lose a sense of self because they're never really by themselves. We lose a sense of creativity because we're always consuming. I'm a big proponent of if you're not creating, you're consuming. So if you're consuming constantly, you're not creating. So take some time. This will be my challenge for you guys this week. Try to spend an hour alone, no phones, no watching something, and try to simply create something. You'd be crazy You'd be crazy to see what your brain can actually do. I did this the other day, last week. I just sat there for an hour and just was no phone, no Netflix, no music, no nothing. And was my brain was starting to unlock things. I was I can be creative here. I can do this. I can do this. And now I've started doing it more and almost regaining a little bit of that childhood nature, because it seems now we just either create, consume, or we just sit at the house and, do nothing, which sometimes can be good, but we need to create. We need to go home and create things.
Does automatically. Now, if you look at what happens in people's days, they don't actually have any time to process what happens to them because we are so constantly distracted by external things. So I don't know if you're like this, but I was in this point where I was idiotically efficient. So I would wake up in the morning and I would listen to a podcast while I'm doing my exercise or whatever. And then even when I'm cooking, I'm listening to a lecture. And then when I'm walking to the train, I have earbuds in and I'm listening to a lecture there. On the train, I'm reading. I wanted my life to be completely efficient. I didn't want to waste a single moment.
I literally listen to the news in the shower.
Right? So we don't want to waste time. And so if you really think about it, where's the attention of your mind? Your mind is pointed outside of you. And so then what happens is once we do not pay attention to ourselves, we lose sight of our internal signals.
No, I love this. This is great. No, this is so true, though. Because if you're consuming all the time, you're not creating anything. You're not spending any time alone. So many people are afraid to spend time alone. I feel like this is where it comes from right here.
Literally in the same way that if you raise a child in a dark cave, the photoreceptors in their eyes won't develop. They will atrophy. So anything that the mind does not get access to will start to atrophy. If I don't practice Spanish, I'm going to forget Spanish. The brain is a very efficient organ. So as we externalize our attention, we lose sight of our internal signals. We don't know who we are anymore. And now if I don't know who I am, how do I figure out who I'm supposed to be? I pay attention to the outside. Where are the answers? They're on the outside. So this person is talking about masculinity. This person is talking about what it means to be a man. This person is talking about what it means to be a man. And now since I don't have any internal source of information, I'm trying to figure out what it means to be a man from the outside world. And this is when men get truly fucked, because what it means to be a man, we are getting all kinds of mixed signals. So on the one hand, it means being physically fit. On the other hand, it means being a provider. On one hand, it means having sex with as many women as you can find. On the other hand, it means having sex with just one woman and being a really solid man and being a good father. And then there's also people telling us that being a man means that you're shit, right? That you're toxic, that your testosterone level makes you violent, that you're evil, that you're privileged, that there's a patriarchy, all this kind of stuff. So we're getting all this information from the outside about what it means to be a man.
Bro, I actually love this take. I absolutely love this because I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, who's to say I'm right? I lean more on the traditionally conservative side. There's other guys that are red pill, black pill, etc. You know, you got your Dan Bilzerians all the way to like family men like Matt Walsh, right? It's a big divide between Matt Walsh and Dan Bilzerian. But it always went back to me from like, as a kid, my mom always used to say, my mama said, well, mama was wrong. My mom used to say there's more than one way to skin a cat. And as macabre as that is, and as dark as that may be, the message she was trying to say is like, just because you're doing it your own way doesn't mean that it's wrong. Like, it's right. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Different strokes for different folks. Like, if one way's working for you, I think that's cool. And to this guy's point, I can't remember this doctor's name, but what is it? Unhealthy Gamer, or I can't remember what his name is. Anyways, the reason I preach my message is because it's worked for me. And I hope that I can tell you guys these things and give you some insight, and hopefully it could work for you. But there's so many different ways to skin said cat, which is the dating market, being in relationships, whether it's being a husband, being a father. There's so many different ways to do this. So find the ones that you gravitate towards and try them wholeheartedly. Try to dive feet first, head first. Try to go as hard as you can into any of these philosophies and see which one actually works for you. Because if you don't actually try it, how are you going to know? I was always a proponent at a younger age of like, I'm going to try something to see if I like it, and if I don't like it, I won't do it. I hated when people used to say like, well, I'm not going to college because I don't like college. Did you ever even go to college though? Well, no, I never went. Well, how do you know you don't like something that you never tried? It's like saying you don't like ketchup and all you've ever had is mustard. How are you going to know you don't like ketchup? You never tried it. Try these things. So to his point, I preach more of a traditionally conservative, nuclear families, husband and wife, be the best man you can be, the 5 very basic things every good man or great man should have: vision, ambition, strength, integrity, and compassion. That's my message. And I feel like a lot of you guys maybe resonate with that. And if you don't, dude, that's okay. There's other ways to do it. You can go be a playboy. You can go do the Dan Bilzerian thing and flying private jets and making hundreds of millions of dollars. Who's to say I'm doing it wrong and he's doing it right? I don't know. If he's getting the same dopamine hits and serotonin hits that I'm getting, and he's getting as much fulfillment, cool, go for it. I just get more fulfillment off of having one woman, having, we're soon to have a daughter, having a family, having a dog, having structure, having discipline, conquering lust. These are things that I get a lot of value out of, which is why I preach these things.
And so there are all kinds of interesting ramifications of this. So men in today's society are not allowed to complain. So if you complain and you're a successful person or a privileged person, everyone is going to think you're arrogant. Everyone is going to think, oh my God, who's this fucking guy? This guy doesn't know what my life is like. How does he have any right to complain? And even your mind will tell you this. You'll look at these people and you'll be like, yeah, I don't have a right to complain. But now we need to stop for a second and think about what it does to your psychology when you as a human being are not allowed to articulate your suffering. I've worked with people who've grown up in abusive households where children will say to their parents, Mommy, Daddy, I'm hurting. And the parent smacks them across the face. How dare you? You're so lucky. You don't realize the sacrifices I make for you. It's traumatizing to the child when they say, I am suffering and no one listens. This is what we're doing to the generation of men. People are saying, I am suffering. For 100 years, men have been killing themselves. 80% of suicides are men. The most dangerous thing for a man under 45 is themselves. And these people have been literally killing themselves because no one has been listening to them. So in the same way that you grow up with as a child in a household that's abusive, where no one takes you seriously, no one listens to your suffering, and now we even have successful men who are not allowed to complain. So the psychological impact is the same. Anytime you have a human being who is suffering in some way and they cannot find connection with another human being, they cannot find compassion with another human being, that person is going to feel isolated. And if you look at the statistics on suicide, it's very interesting. So the number one thing that correlates with male suicide is not depression, and this is super scary. There's one study I saw recently that suggests that 50% of men who kill themselves...
I'm going to guess either they're alone, they're not in relationships, or virgins?
Have no history or evidence of mental illness. And
no evidence. Okay. I was way wrong.
I believe the statistic in my clinical practice because I know what depression looks like. I know what bipolar disorder looks like. And half the men that I've worked with, at least, are not actually mentally ill. See, mental illness means a pathology of the mind, which means that the mind is malfunctioning. Most of the suicidal men that I work with, their mind isn't malfunctioning. They genuinely have a life that is no longer worth living. They're looking at things and objectively realizing that there's no way out of this situation. So they turn to suicide. So I know it's kind of like a very controversial statement, but I think that's what my clinical practice has shown, and there's some research to even back that up.
That's wild. Well, Chad, if any of you guys are feeling that way, just give me one more day, brother. Give me one more day. Don't do it. There's other people in your life that love you, even if you feel like they don't. There's people out there that love you. I appreciate you. Stick around. Give me one more day. One more day. Ain't that right, Loki? I've fallen at work and been injured. Oh, wait. I should call my lawyer.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan.
Hey, John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. It's Levi Nichs of YouTube. Can I get some cash, please?
Morgan & 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 Morgan.
Did you know that your injury could be worth millions of dollars? Morgan & Morgan is the largest injury law firm in America, and they've recovered over $20 billion for their clients. $20 billion? That's a lot of cash. The insurance companies tried to lowball me, but Morgan & Morgan was able to take my pain and suffering and turn it into cold, hard cash. It's almost a good thing I was injured. But wait. How much is Morgan & Morgan gonna cost me? You never owe them legal fees unless they're successful. So it's completely free unless you win? Yeah. Hiring a lawyer? That sounds like really difficult. It's actually super easy. You can just go to their website, and in a couple clicks, you can find out if you have a case. And you can literally do it from your smartphone. And remember, there is only one Morgan & Morgan. Wait, but it's two names though. How is it? Give me the script. Oh, both their last names. Okay, I get it. Okay, roll it. You can start your claim today by going to forthepeople.com/Levi, found in the description below. So if you're injured, you can trust Morgan & Morgan. Oh, there's my boy. He's a little sleepy boy today.
So if we sort of look at what's going on with men, we're sort of, they have nowhere to turn to. And the number one thing that correlates with it is not mental illness, but is a sense of thwarted belongingness. So this is kind of like multivariate regression analysis. But basically what happens is what causes people to kill themselves is they try to connect with others and they get rejected. So it's specifically a very specific research term called thwarted belongingness. So I try to belong to a group, and that group, or multiple groups usually, will thwart my attempts to join the tribe, to join the community. And this is what actually correlates a lot with suicidality. So what's going on with men right now is that we really don't allow them to suffer, because then you're not manly. And we're so externalized with our attention that we're not connecting with ourselves. And so we're looking to other people to tell us what it means to be a man. But that may or may not work for you, right? That may have been what worked for them. So then we kind of get into this problem where we're disconnected from ourselves. And then the world doesn't accept us. We're not allowed to suffer. And that's what creates the problem.
Speaking of groups, you can join the Discord. We got a very large group of men and some women. The Discord is in the description below. Join the Discord. We got a great group of guys. I think we have over 700 members now. So join now. If you feel like you don't have your tribe, I got your back like a chiropractor. Join the Discord.
What is the remedy to this?
So I think the first thing is we must reconnect with ourselves, right? So when you're kind of saying why does everyone think, oh, I need to achieve this, I need to make this money and things like that. Where did you learn that you should do all that? You learned all that from the outside.
Instagram.
I think there's also to his point, yeah, we do need to internalize it, but at the same time, we need good men and women out there to teach the future generations. How are the future generations going to learn it with this logic? And I'm taking it a little far, but if it was just this logic of internalize everything, figure it out yourself, we wouldn't pass traditions down, we wouldn't pass anything down. It would just be, well, just go figure it out on your own. Whereas we're supposed to make it a little bit easier for the next generation, right? But on the other side of the coin, play devil's advocate. Easy times create, what is it? Easy times create weak men, hard times create strong men. So if we give them all the answers, but to his point, I do think we need to let people suffer. Kids, boys and girls need to suffer a little bit. We understand that. Cass and I have even talked about that. It's like, not that we're going to go out of our way to make our daughter suffer, but there's certain things, if she's trying to figure something out, instead of just solving it for her, like she's trying to tie her shoe, she's trying to put her sock on, we're going to let her sit there and figure it out. We're not just going to do it for her. There's so many parents out there that just do things for their kids and don't let them suffer and figure it out. And so I think that's kind of the point there.
Instagram, right? So we get fed all of these ideas because if you look at all these influencers, what are they doing? They're never crying. They're smiling. Some of them will even pay very attractive women to take pictures with them.
Well, some of them are crying, but they're crying and uploading it for ulterior motives, right?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of them are genuinely suffering too.
And dude, that's why I think people are drifting away from media and influencers and like reaction style content. Like people are I think people are getting more news from guys like Osmond Gold, Diary of a CEO, Joe Rogan, because it's like more raw. Like my videos, I took inspiration from Joe Rogan and those guys because it's just 20 minutes raw. You get with me. I don't edit it. I don't cut things out. I say stupid things. I'm wrong on a lot of stuff. And you guys get to see that vulnerability. And I think that's what people have been yearning for when it comes to media. Most people seem too polished or it seems too fake. And if it's too good to be true, it probably is. You know what I mean?
But then it's also like, I mean, there's all kinds of weird stuff going on. So one thing is like people say that we don't allow men to be emotional. Nowadays, but people say, oh, men are allowed to cry. So this is something that I experienced even in my marriage where we allow men to cry, but we don't allow men to be angry. But why are men no longer allowed to be angry? You just think about it for a second.
Got a point.
So anger is just a completely normal emotion, right? But if I'm in a situation where I'm in an argument with my wife and I feel emotion A and I express emotion A and she feels emotion B and she expresses emotion B, these two things should be equal, right? We as both human beings get to express what we feel. Now, in the case of me expressing anger and her expressing sadness, she's crying and I'm yelling. Suddenly, I become a villain.
It's so interesting. I saw a viral tweet yesterday. It was someone Googling, my wife is yelling at me, what should I do? And then my husband is yelling at me, what should I do? When they Googled, my husband is yelling at me, what should I do? Domestic violence helpline comes up as like a Google pop-up. When you Google, my wife is yelling at me, what should I do? Nothing comes up.
Yeah.
Because obviously, as you said, in the case of villainization, I know that most domestic violence comes from men, but it's interesting that we see the emotion, we interpret the emotion.
That's actually, I think that's not true. The 10 Men did a study where most domestic violence does not come from, he said domestic, right? Let's just run that back, Turbo.
Yeah.
Because obviously, as you said, in the case of villainization, I know that most domestic violence comes from men.
Okay, most domestic violence comes from men. This is his claim, right? This is his claim. The 10 Men on Instagram did a study about this, and 1,700 studies showing domestic violence is not gendered. So 200 studies, here we go. 1,700 studies of domestic violence. This unprecedented undertaking, a total of 42 scholars, 70 research assistants at 20 universities, okay? Approximately 12,000 studies were considered and more than 1,700 were summarized and organized into tables. 23% of women experienced abuse, 19% of men experienced abuse. However, rates of female perpetrated violence were higher than male perpetrated. Almost at a 7% disparity there. So they were both doing it, she did it, he did it. So I don't buy into this narrative, and I feel like what he's saying is, like, that's just not true. Like, these guys did the studies. There's the research right there. Men don't perpetuate more domestic violence than women do. Actually, women perpetuate more of this stuff. So, and it's funny that he mentioned that, and Dr. K, that's this guy's name, he didn't check him on that at all.
But it's interesting that we see the emotion, we interpret the emotions entirely differently because of that.
Absolutely, right? So we as a society will say like, oh, men need to be in touch with their emotions, but not anger. And then this is what really screws men, because as men, we are socialized and conditioned to only feel anger. This is the only emotion you are allowed to feel as a man growing up. And this is the one emotion that gets demonized when you're older. So I'll give you a simple example. So like I used to get bullied a lot, right? So when I get bullied in school, like what am I supposed to do, Stephen?
In school, well, it depends if you can fight back.
Absolutely, right? Exactly. It's fighting back. Like you didn't say talk to the teacher. You didn't say ask for help. You didn't say...
Bro, that's what my mom said. She goes, kill them with kindness, honey. Don't fight back. When a dad would be like, no, you're fighting back.
Cry about it, because if I cry about it, what's going to happen, Stephen?
You're going to get bullied more.
Absolutely. So we turn every emotion. So men experience anger as something called an umbrella emotion. We literally suppress and are conditioned to suppress all other emotions except for anger. And then if you talk to men about their experience of life, anger is always the first thing that comes out of their mouth. Someone breaks up with you. How do you feel about it? Do you feel ashamed? No, that's not what we say. I feel pissed off. How could she do this to me? And then we vent that anger on the internet, and then this turns into misogyny, right? And then we get demonized for it. And it's not that there isn't, we should be harshly judged if we act on those kinds of emotions. I'm not saying that that's the case. But what we also need to consider is that the men who are saying these kinds of toxic things are saying that for a reason. This is because of their upbringing. This is because of the world that they lived in, right? So we're conditioned to only experience anger. Even sadness gets turned into anger. Shame gets turned into anger. Fear gets turned into anger, right? So if I'm afraid of something happening, what do I need? I need to man up, get angry, right? Like, let's go, son, let's go. This is the emotion that we tap into to overcome fear. So we don't feel any of those other emotions, and we're left only feeling anger.
At the very heart of aggression, I heard someone say to me once that at the very heart of aggression is some kind of insecurity. But for men, when they encounter that insecurity, they only know how to sort of manifest it as aggression.
So I wouldn't agree with the first thing, that at the heart of all anger is insecurity, but I would absolutely agree with the second thing, that the only way we know how to respond is with anger. Because
here's the exact quote, just found it. The source of aggression is insecurity. As we are unconsciously aware that our position in life is never secure, people feel increasingly insecure and helpless, so they will be increasingly aggressive and confrontational at a personal and a social level.
So let's tunnel down into that for a second. Okay, so I think that that is true on some level, but also I would disagree. So the first thing is that we have parts of our brain, even animals feel anger. But I think that, like, when two dogs are fighting over territory, I don't think that that's born of some kind of identity of insecurity, right? So if we really look at like the evolutionary purpose of anger, this is my opinion, is that anger is the emotion that we feel to protect our territory. It's a protective emotion.
Makes sense.
So if I slap you across the face, what's the first thing that you're going to feel? It's going to be anger. Mm-hmm. So if I insult you, you're going to feel angry. It's fascinating the way that it works. So anger causes our thoughts to be faster. Anger causes our peripheral vision to collapse to 30 degrees. So I only see what's in front of me. And it also makes me less sensitive to pain. So like my nociceptors will actually like start to be suppressed when I feel angry, right? So if I get into a fight, I'm going to feel it tomorrow, but like while I'm getting hit, I'm not going to feel it. So I don't think it's born of all insecurity. I think anger is simply an evolutionary response. It's something that we experience to protect ourselves. That's why we feel angry, right? So if I attack baby bear, mama bear is going to come out angry. So it's really a protective emotion. Now, I agree with the second part of the statement 100%, that when we feel insecure, especially as men, the only way we are taught to deal with our problems is through anger, right? So if I'm feeling insecure, if I'm feeling ashamed of myself, if someone's bullying me, what do? I put them in their place, right? I don't try to make peace. I don't complain to someone because no one's going to take me seriously, right? I have to stand up for myself.
So we've got the first point there about how we remedy this challenge, which is about self-expression, more self-expression. That's what I heard.
Not self-expression, introspection.
Introspection, getting to know ourselves.
Right. So it's very simple. So if you look at your idea of what it means to be a man, what percentage of that idea comes outside of you? And what percentage of that idea comes from within you?
About 90% comes from outside of me.
And that's why 90% of people, we're 90% fucked. Right. So, and if you look, and I'm sure you know this, and you've probably done this too, if you look at where is the goodness in your life, where does it come from, Stephen? It doesn't come from what other people have told you. They may have told you something, but then you looked within yourself and then you found that to be true.
Yeah.
The goodness in you, the motivation, the really good motivation in you, not chasing things, but the duty that you have, everything that you really strive for, all that good stuff comes from inside you. And the problem is that we live in a world that pulls our attention away from ourselves.
What do you think of Andrew Tatism then?
So as a general rule, I don't comment on people that I don't speak to. Mm-hmm. So what?
That's smart. I do that all the time. I'll be commenting on everybody, bro.
Tell me the features of what you're talking about.
Okay, so the recent wave of internet masculine influencers who have like Bugattis and lots of women and sports cars, and there's many of them. There's many of them, and they seem to
Not me, sadly. Wish I had a Bugatti. But I don't think no matter how much money I'll ever have, I'll never buy a Bugatti.
be resonant for some kind of
Probably never be eligible to buy a Bugatti either.
reason. That are kind of saying that the way to be a man is to have loads of money, lots of women, these kind of cars, physical strength, and there's just this huge sort of generation of young, typically men, that are now disciples of that religion.
Yeah. So I think if you dislike that toxic masculinity, what we need to understand is it's the people who hate that toxic masculinity that are driving these people towards it. So I know this is kind of crazy. So what's happened is this has grown, right? And as it's grown, what have we done? We've demonized these people. We've said these people are bad. And as we demonize them, what's happened? They've grown stronger. Mm-hmm. So this is something that's very important to understand. If you are a man and you say, I am suffering today, what is the response that you're going to get?
Wow. Shut up.
Absolutely.
Not in those exact words, but that's whatever the words are, that's what they mean.
Now,
well, and to me, another problem is like boys go to school and they're taught by women. They're taught in a female environment. Boys, roughhouse. Boys interact with each other. They wrestle, they fight, they build hierarchies. This is very much so what boys do when they are left to unstructured play. They build hierarchies and then they play the game, right? The school system's very egalitarian. Everybody's equal. Everyone's the same. Don't worry about it. We'll put a curve on the test. And there's an eerie comparison to schools and prisons. Have you ever found that out? You know what I mean? Like, you go to school it's in shifts, 8-hour shift, and also with schools and prisons and factory workers, right? The reason it was, 24-hour day, 8, 16, 24, 8 hours at school, 8 hours at the factory, 8 hours sleep, you know what I mean? Like, these things, and then prison, you walk in lines, it's all fluorescent lighting, there's not a lot of windows, you all eat at tables that look the same, you even go to prison in buses. Like, a school is just colorful, a prison is just gray and black and white. But there's also something towards the factory. Like, schools teach kids to work in factories. A bell releases you, get up, go eat, go to your next class. It's 8-hour blocks, like there's an eerie comparison between going to school and working in a factory. And I feel like people seem to forget that.
I want us to be very, very careful, right? So if you are listening to Steven say people tell you to shut up, and your first thought as a listener is, no, that's not true, that's the problem. So if people agree with you, they understand what you're saying. But if they disagree with you, that's the problem. We literally have a man who is telling us right now that your experience is when I say I'm suffering, people tell you to shut up. And then people are going to be judging you for saying that. And they're going to be saying, no, that's not true.
They're going to be saying, shut up.
Absolutely. Right? So this is exactly the problem. So men are struggling right now, and the rest of the world says, no, you're not. You're privileged. You're a man. There's a patriarchy. And I'm not commenting on the sociology of it. There is a patriarchy, whatever. Men have many advantages in life. I've experienced many advantages of being a man. It's absolutely true. Let's not go there. I'm talking about the individual experience of men.
What advantages, though? See, I like Dr. K, but he kind of losing me here. What advantages? What? You clearly worked very hard to get where you are. You're very intelligent. You're eloquent. You're well-spoken. You're very sharp, sound mind. You're very, you seem like an intelligent guy. What are you talking about? How did you have a privilege as a guy? I could see how your race would maybe play more of an advantage as over you being a dude. What do you mean? What do you mean? Like what? What privileges do we have as men that women don't have? We have to get drafted. We have to work the hard, jobs, the underwater welding, the oil rigging, the roughnecking, the concrete laying, the truck driving. Men do a lot of these manually laborious jobs. What advantages? Like, he had me until he kind of said that, bro. But I don't know. What do you guys think? What is it gonna take for men to realize that they are worth it? What is it gonna take for society to do to get men to a point where they do open up about their feelings? Because even right now, if a man opens up to me, like as especially my friend group, my buddies know not to open up to me. We don't open up to each other. We suppress a lot of these things. But maybe that's what has made men men. Maybe that's what men are supposed to do. Women are supposed to be emotional. Men are supposed to be logical. Do you think men should be more in touch with their feminine side and be more open with their feelings, or do you think we should keep doing what we're doing and be stoic? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Loki, did you have a good time? But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I love you guys, man. Once again, just give me one more day. We don't want any more unalivings. Let's help reduce the suicide rate in men. You guys do matter. And I really do appreciate you guys. I love you guys, man. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It was good to have you guys out, man. Until next time. Peace.